Hello, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
When did we stop saying that?
No, never.
Never. Well, it's our first show of the year, so I'm thinking that we're allowed to push
Fair
it
enough.
just a little bit. But welcome back, people. Thank you so much for continuing to follow us and support us. We couldn't do this without you. So happy New Year. Yeah, I can't even speak now. Happy New Year to you, our audience members. Hoping that you had a restful break. Now we're still in Corona. Corona is still here. It's okay. It's okay. We're still going to entertain you,
Amen.
take you through all sorts. We still got you. So just keep your head up, okay? So we're back. It's me, Tolu Stedford, and it's
Me, Bello.
And me, Jess, Collett.
Woo.
The trio is back. Was you going to say something, Kai?
No.
Yeah, all right. I was like, So we have got a beautiful guest here today with us. We've got Jennifer Preston. Give us a round of applause. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
I am thrilled to be here.
We're thrilled to have you here. We really are. Can't wait to get into why you're here and your exciting project. And I can give you the audience a sneak peek. Why not? We are going to be working with Jennifer and the Tripods, who are a great, fantastic production company. If you've been listening to our show, you've probably heard them on here quite a few times. They're part of our film festival, and we've had a long journey of growing with them, which is amazing. Talented trio. But we are embarking on another short film for 2021, which is focusing on grief. Now, when we want to say, even when I wanted to say the word grief, I was a bit like, oh, do I sound too happy? No, we can still talk about grief. We're survivors, and I think there is some positivity to bring into it. But we are going to go down that road when we speak to Jennifer, and I'm actually really looking forward, and I'm so excited about this project. We all are. Other projects, I'm just going to fill you in, people, on what we're kind of doing this year so that you can kind of get an idea. If you've already tuned in to our last episode, you might have heard some radio plays. We have started a series of radio plays, which is really exciting to get some live entertainment out there. We're all starving for it. We can't go out, but we thought, no, we're bringing the plays back to life.
Yeah, we're bringing the entertainment to you.
Right, so we have got some amazing plays from extremely talented writers and performed by brilliant actors, and that is such a joy. So tune in for that, and we will be having this series on, am I allowed to say the name of the short? Milo.
Yeah.
Oh, I've said it, I'm sorry. We're going to be doing a really touching series on grief and all things surviving grief, and that will be a great series that we hope to unpack what that is and lead you onto our film and how we start to go down that storytelling, which is quite difficult. So we've got that. Lastly, we are also embarking on a documentary called Fatherhood, which is really exciting. We want to hopefully do a documentary that kind of puts the spotlight on Black men, Black fathers in particular. And we just want to open up that Pandora's box and look at what it is to be a Black father, what challenges they have, what obstacles they have to face, what stereotypes is tripping them up, all sorts of things. That's really, really exciting. So we're just in development with that. So as you can see, we started off here with a bang. You know us lions, we love to keep busy. We like to keep busy. But thank you so much. That's the roundup for today. So let's go into it. Who am I handing over to?
Me, I'm going to just tell everyone a little bit
Yes.
about Jennifer. I've got her bio in front of me, so I shall start reading. I can do that. I learned at school. It's great. So Jennifer is an actress and writer who is trained at Central in London and the International Film School in Prague, and has many years of stage and screen acting experience. She appeared in Sky Amazon's Britannia and in Sci-Fi Channel's TV series 12 Monkeys, and filmed an episode of Amazon Originals Wheel of Time last year in Prague. That sounds cool. She starred in the title role of the feature film Susan, which has to date won 18 awards in international film festivals, including 4 for Best Actress. She played a lead role in the short film Nora, which was screened at the BGI IMAX as part of the NHS 70th birthday celebrations, and for which she won a Best Actress award. She was also recently awarded Best Supporting Actress for the feature film British Maid. Lots of awards there. I'm very
Wow.
She can currently be seen in the horror film Hosts. I can't wait to see that.
Same.
Which has just been released in the UK and Canada. Reached number 3 in the iTunes horror charts. And it wasn't in like the top 30 or 40 in the UK overall.
20. Top
20.
general
And
film.
I was watching it rising up the charts and I was like, this is so cool, we've got to watch this.
This is a low budget, independent horror film to get in the top 20 of the iTunes film charts in the UK.
Incredible.
The biggest film market in the world. We were really chuffed about that.
That's
Amazing. Absolutely.
No.
And is Host the same one that the It Girls were in?
No, so that's Host and this is Hosts.
It's the name. We should have done Hostess or something. We should have done something, girls.
Oh my God.
Let's do some kind of comedy called Hostess.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I like it.
I like it.
Like
Can we bank that one?
Yeah.
I love this. When not acting, Jennifer writes screenplays and young adult non-fiction and watches Arsenal with her 2 sons in North London. She's also a qualified coach. Yeah, I mean, I get
Sorry, babe.
Sorry.
Nice. Keep it on the down low.
She does both life coaching and corporate executive performance coaching. She also has several years of corporate experience leading and developing business teams and has experience of counselling via helplines and in person. Wow. That's amazing.
We're keeping Jennifer. She's for keeps.
She's like the 5th or 6th line. I don't know. We hand up.
Yeah, I know. But this is a very multi-talented one, so ticking a lot of boxes. Well done. What epic.
An incredible bio.
Thank you. Very kind of you ladies, especially coming from you guys who are super, super talented.
Thank you.
Right.
So
after all that.
Yeah, I just remembered what I was supposed to do. It leads us on very nicely to how we actually met, because we all met working together on a Zoom screen performance. Our mutual friend, colleague Lance had written a 5-part drama called Persecution, the Trial of Colin Stagg, based on the true story. And so all 4 of us had roles in that. 3 of us on the police team, right? We were all on the same team. It was just
we were.
Tolu not so much.
No.
Tolu was a reporter. Were you a reporter?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you had the snazzy hotel room, I remember.
I'm right in saying that. We hadn't met before, had we? Because I know we've kind of got mutual friends in common, like Patrick Ryder and...
No, I don't think we had. It's a very small world, the indie filmmaking business. So I had heard of you guys before, and obviously I'd started working with Tripod Productions a while ago. I think I met Jake on another horror movie, actually, on the set of another horror movie. That's probably getting on for 2.5 years ago. So at that point, I was starting to get connected into the world that you guys are in. So it's such a small world.
It is
tiny.
It really, really
tiny.
And you'll be at an event and Tolu will say, oh, I met someone that knows you. And you're like, oh, really? And same, you know, it's always like, yeah.
And it goes to show, right, and it's important actually that we do keep on networking like this, because even after going through Jennifer's bio, I know she's for keeps, and I know we'll be approaching Jennifer for not just filmmaking, for other things in the Alliance, and we all do similar things, and we can all help each other and help each other grow. And yeah, I think it just highlights.
I just want to say that I am a big ambassador for strong, talented, fierce women, you know, and so that's why I want to work with you girls, because you are amazing and I admire you a lot. So yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer.
A big
she's in.
Yeah. She knows flattery will get her over. It was really important to us on our last film, Bubba, actually, to try and get as many women on board as possible, because it's there's just something about working with women. I don't know, the egos are kind of left at the door, perhaps. It just kind of
refreshing.
You know where you are, yeah. I think
absolutely.
So. Yeah,
absolutely. And it, like you said, Kai, it does show you that our industry, you do have to be good people too. I think it helps, because immediately when you approached us about Milo, it's we want to work with you. We want to work with you, and you don't know when those things happen. And it's not just Milo, like Kai said, we're thinking longevity, we're thinking about our next projects. When we think about an actress, we're like, right, we know a fantastic actress who will kill this role. Do you know what I mean? And we want to work with her, which is even more, you know.
100%. It's so true that I mean, because I started off in the business, you know, I know you don't want my whole life history, but I started off in the business when I was quite young, and then I had a break from it all to be a mum and to do other stuff in the corporate world, and that's how I became a coach, etc. And I've just been coming back into it like in the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm just on this massive learning curve, and I'm really just soaking it all in and learning everything. But in every business there's like politics, and you know, there's some not so nice people, but it's really interesting because the people who aren't nice, no one wants to work with them, you know. And they may do well in one set, you know, and they get cast because they may have talent and they look right the part, but then after that no one wants to work with them. And it's not just on that set, word gets around really quickly. The number of times I'm asked, I'm auditioning, I'm trying to cast for this film, do you know this person, do you know that person? And I'm like, and I will never badmouth anybody, because I also don't think that's a really great thing to do, but I wouldn't be able to say anything really glowing and positive about them, either, you know, because if you're not a nice person, I don't think you do very well for very long in this business. You might have a little spark of success, and then that's it, no one wants to work.
And you can always phrase things, can't you? You know, oh, they were a bit difficult to work with, or oh, they weren't so much a team player, or, you know, you kind of phrase it so people go, okay, I understand, like, you know, completely
the chemistry didn't really work that well with our particular team, but you know, that might just have been how we were working.
I love that.
or just don't mention their name, because if somebody asks me, exactly, if someone asks me for a male that looks like this, even though I know that there's an arsehole I know that could play it, I'm not mentioning him. It's not coming out my mouth. Someone else can bring him to you and you find it. Like you said, I'm not going to badmouth anybody, but I'm like, I definitely won't be fighting for you either.
Right. It's your reputation on the line as well. If you put somebody difficult onto a set, it affects everybody. Everyone on that set is working so hard to make that happen, especially on a smaller budget where people are, you know, working ridiculous hours. They're putting their life and soul and, you know, their livelihood on the line, and some idiot doesn't turn up on time, or they haven't learnt their lines, or they, you know, they're not worried about continuity. These aren't professionals, and you want to work with people who are professional and care as much passionately about your project as you do. So
definitely. Which brings us on quite nicely to Milo. How did that come about, your passion project?
I got to know the tripods. As I say, I met Jake Francis, who's one of the tripods, really talented man. He was in his acting capacity because he's also a filmmaker and producer. We played husband and wife, actually, and we met when the director said, "This is Jake, if you two could just jump into bed, we'll get going."
As you do.
It's a funny old world, this film set. But so that was the horror film Carly, which is coming out at some point this year. Watch this space.
Awesome.
A bit of a screen this year. And he said to me, we were talking, you know, as you do on set, and I said, I love to write. And so far I'd only written novels. And he said, have you ever written, you know, a scene or a script? And I said, only for friends, you know, for show reels or, you know, just for a bit of fun. And he said, well, I think you should really think about writing. So I decided that that's what I was going to start to try and do. And I always like to choose my projects, films and things that I get involved in where I'm representing something that is a social issue, because I like to spark some debate, spark some discussion. And, you know, of course, how wonderful to be in something like Game of Thrones. You know, I definitely would not say no to that. But also, if you are going to write something and you're going to be in it and tell that amazing story, then let it be something that really affects people deeply and will resonate with a lot of people in society, and maybe help them to start talking about it so that we raise awareness of certain social issues. Actually, the film Susan was, you know, about PTSD and war, and there was quite a lot about loss in that film as well. I played a mother who did lose her child. And so, you know, I think bringing those things to the screen, even though they can be very raw and very painful, I think sometimes it helps people to open up that discussion. And that's, I think, what I wanted to do with Milo.
Amazing.
That is amazing. Is grief something that had touched your life? And is that why you wanted to tell that story? Or is it something that you've seen other people go through and thought was important?
I would say both. I mean, grief is just something I think that touches everyone in some way. I am very lucky that so far in my life, and it's been quite a long life so far, I haven't been touched by like really traumatic grief. So the people that I've lost have been grandparents, or you know, there have been some younger people, some friends, but I've also had people very close to me lose people in a very traumatic way and supported them in that process. And also in my counselling, which is a while back now, but it still stays with you for a long time, also helping people through that. And the other thing I wanted to say about grief is in my work as a coach, I help people manage their lives through difficult change. And there's something called a change curve, which, you know, is quite useful in it, explaining the process that people go through in change. And I use that a lot when I'm coaching people to deal with difficult change, because it's actually exactly the same process as with grief. You start off with the shock of whatever this new situation or change is. I mean, you could use it with COVID, with the pandemic. You know, first of all, it's shock. And then it's like, well, refusing to accept the situation. I can't believe this is actually happening. With grief, people sometimes say, no, I just saw him 5 minutes ago. You know, he's going to come through the door any minute. You're mistaken. You know, and people go through that phase. Then people go through this not wanting to accept it at all. You know, and this awful situation where they start to blame. They blame other people. You know, whose fault was this? Who can I get angry at? Who can I blame? Was it my fault? Should I have seen what was happening? Should I have helped this person? Then they go through this sort of frustration. And then finally they get into this sort of well of the curve where there's this sadness and despair and this awful, awful pain. Some people get stuck in that well. And the character in Milo, Emma, who's the main protagonist, who I'm going to be playing in the film, she gets stuck in that well of sadness. Most people carry on through the curve, they come back up, and they start to get to accept the new situation. They start to accept the new normal. They start to slowly reintegrate into normal life. They carry the grief with them always, that never really disappears. Grief's always with you in some way, but you know, they come out the other side. My personal experience of grief, I think the thing that's affected me most is probably my grandmother, who lived an amazing, wonderful, long life. She died at 93, and she died surrounded by people that loved her, and she was very lucky that she didn't have a lot of suffering, a lot of pain. She had a couple of weeks where she wasn't well, and then she peacefully left us. You know, in terms of a death, that's a pretty good one, I would say. But I was very surprised at how I reacted. I was completely overwhelmed and floored by her death. I'd grown up with her. She was somebody who we sparred. She was stubborn. I'm stubborn. Both strong women. I think she inspired me to be strong and stand up for myself and think that women can do anything. They don't, you know, they can do any job. They can be anything they want to be. Right. She inspired all of those things in me. But we also sort of, you know, were like bulls sparring. And I think it just hit me. It hit me like a truck, and it hit my mum like a truck. And I know we talked about the box and the button about grief. Yeah. And I'm always talking
about it though, so our listeners can hear, because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, it was something that came up on Twitter a few years ago. I think it was somebody called Lauren Hirsch, who if you Google box and button and grief, you'll find it, and there's some really good diagrams and things. But basically, think of your life as a box. You think of your grief as this big blue bouncy ball inside the box, and also inside the box there's this big red button with pain on it. And in those first weeks, days, months of grief, your life is consumed by this enormous, great big ball of grief, and it is pressing on that pain button relentlessly. It just won't stop pressing on the button. But as time goes by, the normal healing process, because they say time heals, and it really does, your ball gets smaller. It's still rattling around the box. Every so often it hits that pain button. Lots of things trigger it off, as we know, ladies, you know, like favourite song or even the favourite colour. So many things I think of, I want to call my gran and tell her about, or Christmas, I must think, what should I get her for Christmas? And then suddenly my balls hit the pain button again, you know. And as time goes by, you know, your ball just gets smaller and smaller, and you're not hitting that pain button as much, but it can still hit you at random times and still be very, very painful. So I think that's quite a good thing to help people understand sort of how time will heal.
Right.
But with Milo, it's this character Emma, she gets stuck. So her grief ball is still consuming her after 6-12 months. And it's actually something called complicated grief disorder, for people who just can't move beyond and revert back to, you know, normal everyday life and other projects. They don't feel happy again, you know, they can't laugh again.
Yeah.
We were talking, weren't we, Tolu, about the fact that we've got some bright colours here. I put on some bright lipstick. Was that all right, you know, when we're talking about grief? And our loved ones would want us to laugh and
absolutely
smile. I think that is
definitely.
Oh, she's gone. Yeah, she has. But yeah, no, absolutely. All the people that I've lost would want me to definitely be wearing my colours. My grandmother, my father, my brother. They're all such big characters, and they definitely wouldn't want the wallowing thing. But you're so right about the little button thing. It's even, I mean, my dad's been dead probably about 21 years now, but still there are those moments that catch you by surprise, just little things like Chelsea playing. He was a Chelsea fan, and makes me him, or me putting my son's hair up yesterday and his face looked really long. I was like, oh my god, you look like my dad, and it takes you back to that place. But then I hadn't, you know, thought about him probably for a good week, so I wasn't expecting it, and then you have these emotions that overtake you. But he was the joy of the party, and he would hate to see me upset, so I refused to be. totally refuse to be. Our Tolly's back.
Good. I'm back. I'm back. I do. That is beautiful. It is. You really do connect with someone when they start talking about grief, actually. Yeah. It's such a personal thing that is so, it makes you so vulnerable, but it really does allow you to like feel something, you know, even when you're telling that story, Kai, we're like, oh, you know, we can feel it. And it's huge. And I was talking to my cousin today, and we were talking about, you know, funeral costs. And like, you want to give them the send off, but nobody really plans for death. Nobody really, even if the person has been saving up, you as a family member, we've not got different pots for all the different people that are vulnerable. No. And some of them you wouldn't think are gonna leave you. No. And so this huge thing lands on your lap, and you've somehow got to think about paying for it, or possibly being in debt for years with it. And you think to yourself,
and again, they wouldn't want that. They wouldn't want
that.
Yeah, to be stressed or to be like
in debt. Or in our family, we have a saying that it's expensive to die. Very expensive to die. So stay healthy.
It really, really is. It's shockingly expensive, and there's no even low entry point where you can say, look, I can't afford it. You know, I don't have any money. I can't get a loan. So what do I do? What do I do with my loved one? You know, but there isn't a very basic entry point or government help to bury a loved one. You've just got to find this, you know, minimum cost, and we're talking at least £1,000, if not 2 or 3. I know people that had not what I would consider to be a showy send off for their loved one, £7,000 or £8,000.
Yeah, I think that's like as low as you can go. I mean, I would say that's low. I think an average, and it would be really good when we start speaking to some of the professionals as well. I reckon the average is about 15 grand for a funeral.
Yes. Yeah, I've definitely
expensive than some people's weddings. And
I know. It's crazy.
And costs that you have no idea, and you've got to, because it was so interesting what you were saying, Jennifer, about the stages. And actually I've come into that contact with that line before because of something else that we was doing in regards to actually racism and changing your thought process. Any type of pivot, you have to kind of go through this journey, and that's an interesting thing. Yeah,
it's what's called the change curve. So it does work in changing people's attitude. Exactly. So people who have grown up with white privilege would be thinking, well, I'm shocked that this even exists. And then, well, I'm not like that. You know, they would go through this, and then they'd be angry, either angry at themselves or angry at other people. It's a really tough one.
So true.
So interesting. That one I feel we should be teaching in schools, that kept that line. I wanted to ask you though, Jennifer, where did you get your insight into this from? Did it come from your grandma, or was it that you've had this idea, or your counselling history? Because you obviously get what those feelings mean, and not everyone, even if you've been through it, can understand it the way you have. So where does that come from?
Yeah, I think being a mother is a good starting point, because I have a little boy who's actually an actor who's going to be playing Milo. So it's really, you know, it's really close to home. And I think, you know, we've been through a lot of ups and downs with illness and what have you. And as a parent, I'm a big worrier. Oh my goodness. And I think that's always in the back of the mind. I love this thing. I love this child so much. What would I do if something happened to them? I've got an overactive imagination. So unfortunately, I try not to have those sorts of dark thoughts, but I do suffer with quite severe anxiety. And I went through a period where I had a lot of panic attacks, and now luckily I don't. They're very much under control, but I'm still more of an anxious person than not. So those thoughts have run through my mind a lot. And I think naturally, I've done a lot of research. I've talked to a lot of people who have lost a child, which I think, I really can't think of many things that are worse. I'm sure there are, but losing a child. And my grandma actually lost her son, my uncle Paul, when he was only 50. Very, very, very loved. I should say, I mean, that's actually somebody that I've lost, you know, as well. And he went too young. And I think I remember her completely bereft and just saying, no mother should have to bury her child. Absolutely. That is, yeah. And I think it just hits me so hard when I think about it. And then playing Susan in the film, where the police come to the door and they tell me that my daughter's been run over, I could only film that one time because I had to go there in my head. That was the only way to play that scene. Even when I think about it now, it actually makes me a bit emotional, because it's just, you know, God love all those people out there who have lost a child. It's just the worst thing, you know. So I think I wanted to go there as an actor and as a writer. I wanted to try and experience that, so that, you know, for just a fraction of a second, obviously, just to try and look at how a community can come together, how family can support each other to try and get through this terrible, terrible grieving process.
Right. And that's why Milo is such a clever script, because I really don't want to give it away, but it really shows the levels of grief and how it touches different people differently, like members of a certain family, how it will touch them differently. It's so clever, so clever. And it's actually one of the first times that I really sat and reflected and thought, oh my gosh, in my household, really, I'm feeling a certain way, but have I really sat and thought about how my children might be feeling about maybe losing their grandma last year? I felt a certain way, but they were hurt. That was their great grandma. Have I really considered how they felt, or how my husband felt about trying to support me, or seeing his sons go through that? It's like, oh gosh, okay, Jennifer, I really need to think about this. I think maybe I'm selfish sometimes and I only think about me. Really.
No, but I think grief it's a selfish thing. It's a selfish emotion by nature. It's almost the one time that you're allowed to be selfish, because it's so deeply personal. And I think almost everybody, depending on their connection to that person or how they've chosen to deal with it, they will be going through their own selfishness in their way. Sometimes they just don't want to speak about it, and that is their way of selfishly dealing with it. I know when my husband's dad died, I was absolutely floored. My best friend had gone. What the hell? And that was tough to now go and support my husband for it, because my best friend's just died. I'm so sorry about your father, but my best friend. Okay.
I know you loved him. I loved him.
Of course.
Really loved him.
Yeah,
you know,
loved one is so huge that I think. And there's so much to process. If you think about that process that we've just talked about, the shock, the denial, the anger, the frustration, the fear, the confusion, the despair, all of those emotions that you're running through to try and get through to the other side, it's very difficult to look outward and think, how can I support everybody else? But those people who are supporting everybody else are also struggling with something too. They're probably grieving the loss of normality in the family. They're grieving the loss of the person who's going through this, their normality. Maybe they're never going to be the same again too.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it affects the whole family, like you said. And the other thing I wanted to pull out was how important the community is, how important it is that, you know, your GP, that you reach out for help because they're there and they can help you, that, you know, possibly teachers, people in the community, social workers. There's a lot of people who are there, and or just kind family friends who are willing to step in and help, you know, ask for help if you need it.
I mean, there's a lot of sort of like grief charities and grief organizations and things like that as well, aren't there? So yeah, it's always like important that people do like reach out to those as well. We're planning on trying to speak to a few as well, aren't we? So
yeah,
absolutely, that's an important part that we should highlight. Anybody who's listening to this podcast or watching us, if you are struggling, it's okay. Go and find someone to talk to about it, whether it's an organization, a friend, or a neighbor, anyone who will sit down and listen for a while. It will make you feel less like you're alone, and you are not alone. This is something that, you know, you can survive. You will survive, as hard as it is. And it honestly, at that time, especially when it first happens, it's like someone has literally punched you in the stomach, shot you in the stomach, whichever way you want to say, and you have no idea how you're going to come up from that water. Like, how am I going to breathe again? How? It just doesn't seem, but it does. And you know, when people start to say, you know, time's a healer, you're like, yeah, right. Can you not see?
I want to feel better now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What time is the healing coming is what I wanted to know.
I'm ready for it now.
Yeah, exactly. Today, tomorrow, half an hour. But it is true though. It is actually true. Somehow time makes you, it heals something. Doesn't make you forget, but it does heal something.
Absolutely. And there are lots of things that can help if anybody is listening out there and feeling hopeless. There are lots of helplines. I mean, obviously the Samaritans, which is really well known and very well trained staff, are there at the end of a phone. You know, that could be something quick that you could do if you're isolating or you're on your own in this terrible time of COVID. But talking to people is really very, very effective way of moving through the process of grief as well. Talking about the person that you've lost, you know, even sitting in that sadness and sitting in that anger, going through those different phases and actually going, you know, really allowing yourself to experience those things, because also people put off those feelings, they park them and they don't process them. And unfortunately, like character in Milo, Emma's character, she doesn't move forward because she's stuck in really denying that what's happened has happened. And I, you know, we'll obviously going to try and work with some charities, some grief counselling charities, but also mental health charities, because if you get to this point where you can't get past it, it's associated with other things, depression, anxiety, PTSD even, when grief, there are certain types of grief, traumatic grief, loss of a child, possibly one or two people dying in a very short period of time. I mean, at the moment with COVID, there are people who are losing several members of their family, or, you know, friends and people like that, and dealing with all the anxiety that we're all dealing with day to day. So yeah, I would just say reach out, Google it, you know, Google help with help with depression and
well, we would say follow us and make sure that we put some of those things, especially and tune in. We'll put a list, but also tune in for our series, because we will have some of them on the show, hopefully, and we will be going through that. And I think it will be really a good healer just to hear it being spoken out, because it's one of those subjects that's a bit taboo. Nobody really wants to talk about it. And it is something that happens. It probably will happen to everyone at one point in their life. Well, we're all going to die, that's for sure. But I mean, you know, losing someone, probably we're all going to experience in that. But I mean, listening to it from a mother's perspective, like when you both were saying, both you and Kai were talking about the loss of a child, which is the most horrific thing. I literally, in regards to horror films, I can chop off someone's head, leg, whatever. I'm not scared. You start to go psychological with someone's kid.
Oh,
that's it.
Weirdly, that's kind of one of the reasons I don't want children, is because I'm just like so anxious that I know that I'd just be so worried about, like, every time they left the house, I'd feel like, are they okay? And like, I'm sure I would get over it, but it's just like, I'm not going to put myself through that.
Get over it. You're just always worrying about it.
You're always worrying,
until we're gone. But I think, well, which is quite, I don't know why we do put ourselves for that punishment, but I thought that there was a little bit of nice hope, what you said, Kai, in regards to, you know, Milo made you reflect on how other people were dealing with it. And I'm wondering if, especially for a parent, if that can be a ray of hope somehow. If you can step back to focus in on other people who also need you, can that be a saver for some people to really continue on? Do you know what I mean? I just thought about that. I don't know. I think there was something beautiful.
Absolutely, you're 100% right. And that's a positive of Milo. But we're running out of time, and I do want to get this question in for Jennifer, and because I want to know how you hope this film to impact the public. So it's done really, really well. And you're having your interview with like Jonathan Ross, and he says, do you know what? This film has done. What do you want him to have said that this film has done for the public?
Honestly, the way you guys have reacted to it is exactly the kind of reaction which is just to, you know, take it on and think about how it's affected you, you know, personally, and to reflect on, because, you know, we talked about the box and the ball.
Yes.
In an article I read earlier today, actually, because I just wanted to refresh my thinking about it, this person was saying there's a lot of people out there, and it made me quite emotional, that are carrying a box with a ball in, different size balls, but there's lots of them. Almost everybody has got a box with a ball in. Everyone's carrying grief. So be kind. Remember that people are going through different things, will trigger them, things will experience. And I think that's what I want to get across, that grief is something that almost everyone will have to contend with at some point in their life. And that there are a lot of people going through that journey at some point in that journey. And it's really hard. You know, older people losing parents, even though they're old, it's still really, really difficult, and it can surprise us the way it affects us. And then the other thing so for people to think and reflect and be kind. And then the other thing I think would be to get help if you, or for somebody else, if you see them exhibiting similar behaviours.
That's so lovely.
Yeah, that's great. And I think people will get that from the film as well. You know, just from reading it, that's kind of what you get. So it's going to be amazing.
Can't wait to make it with you guys. I'm really excited.
Not as excited as I am. I'm so excited about this one.
Absolutely. This is a special one. A special project. Thank you so much, Jennifer. You're wonderful. Incredible. You're talented. You're articulate, and honestly, I don't know, you really do. You bring such a warm energy into the room, which I'm sure is what's going to make Milo so special.
Yes.
Because it's that relatability and that openness that you give, and you allow people to come in and be vulnerable. And I think actually it's anxiety that is serving you right here, because it allows us to say, she gets it. She gets it. And in my heart, I get emotional. I want a mum who has been suffering to see that film and to say someone understood me, and, you know, feel some healing for that. So I thank you for giving someone that opportunity. I know. And I've played a mum. I've played 3 mums on stage like that. So I know that I don't want to go there and ask to stop.
I know. But I think to be an actor, you have to be empathetic, don't you?
Yeah.
But, you know, you really feel it. You really feel it. Well, thank you. That's such beautiful, beautiful words. And I appreciate your support, all of you wonderful, wonderful, talented women. Thank you.
Love you, Jennifer. All right, I'm gonna bring the mood up a bit. We're gonna do quick fire questions. We're gonna do quick fire questions before we go.
Thank you.
So you've got 1 minute.
Are you ready for this, Jennifer?
Oh God.
Can someone? Is it 1 minute or 30 seconds? Is it 30 seconds? Should we do?
Yeah, let's do 30 seconds.
30. Okay. Do you mind timing me, please?
Yes.
Time master.
I got it.
Right. Are you ready, Jennifer?
Okay.
You have to answer. Please don't say I don't know. Okay.
Right.
Ready, steady, go. Chocolates or sweets?
Chocolates.
Sean Connery or Roger Moore?
Sean Connery.
Favorite place on earth so far?
St. Lucia.
Oh, summer or winter?
Summer.
Desert island must-have item?
Oh, well, it would be my iPhone, but I guess it wouldn't work.
We'll take it anyway.
Chocolate. I'll take chocolate.
Theatre or cinema?
Oh gosh, that's so hard.
And your time is up.
Theatre, because I miss theatre so much.
Oh,
yes.
But I do
Yes.
I do love it.
yeah.
Amazing. I love this quick one.
I'm not sure.
No,
I'm
me
not sure.
too.
Well done. Well, we got an insight into you. Where was your favourite place on earth so far? Because I was like, she's been there. What was it?
St. Lucia. It's
St. Lucia. I'm not jealous much.
oh, it's just so
now.
Yes, please.
Oh God, to hear that right now as well when we're stuck.
I just keep thinking about it all the time.
I know. Whatever gets us through, babes, we'll get there in the end.
One day we'll be traveling again, and we'll appreciate everything so much more, won't we?
Amen to
Yes,
that.
we will.
Amen to that.
Yeah,
It's a lovely note to end on. Jennifer, you have been a fabulous guest.
So much.
Honestly.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So talented. Guys, you have to check out everything that she's in. She's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Host
is up
Host
there.
with the S, yes.
You should watch Host as well. Watch them both. We're friends with both of them.
Yeah, we've got friends in both, so you're all, we love you all the same.
And look out for Hostess coming soon.
Yes. With the 3 lions. Okay, before we go, guys, don't forget to hit us up on our socials. It's Creative Alliance Show on Insta and on Facebook, The Creative Ally on Twitter, and our website is thecreativealliance.co.uk. Drop us all your messages. If you've got anything that you'd like us to pass on to Jennifer, please do so there. Follow us. Just follow us, because we've got loads going on this year, loads. All right, I'm going to say bye now. So it's bye from me, Bello.
Bye from me, Tolu, Stedford.
Bye from me, Jess, Collett. Thanks
and bye from my bye from my lovely guest, Jennifer Preston. Bye.
Having me. Bye.
Amazing. Mwah.